Hi everyone. As I mentioned, I'm Krista Liggett, the Heritage Policy and Designations Advisor with the Heritage Conservation Branch at the Ministry of Parks, Culture and Sport. Welcome to the second day of our 2025 Heritage webinars. Before we start, I want to acknowledge that Regina, where I'm located today, is in Treaty 4 territory, which is the traditional land of the Cree, the Saulteaux, Nakota, Dakota, and Lakota, and home of the Métis. We make these land acknowledgements out of respect and as an act of reconciliation to those whose land we use and share. These webinars are an opportunity to learn about some interesting places around the province and that work that individuals, organizations, and communities do. In today's presentation, we will hear about the archaeological investigations that took place in the Wakamow Valley in Moose Jaw during the summers of 2023 and 2024. During these investigations, our presenter, Alan Korejbo, and his team at Respect Heritage Consulting, they recovered over 200,000 artifacts from this site. Although the team is still cataloging and analyzing the artifacts, these finds will provide significant new information about the lives of First Nations people in the centuries before European settlers arrived. Truly a remarkable discovery. This project also demonstrates the importance of cultural resource management in Saskatchewan. There'll be time for questions at the end of the hour, so we'll ask that you hold your questions until then. You can also put the questions in the chat and we'll get through as many as we can. As I mentioned, our presenter today is Alan, who's a registered professional archaeologist and project manager with Respect Heritage Consulting. Alan has extensive experience completing heritage resource impact assessments in Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, and BC, and has completed all types of archaeological investigations for a broad range of industrial sectors, including energy, mining, transportation, just to name a few. Alan, if you want to, I will just, you can turn on your microphone and camera if you'd like. We also ask that everyone else just mute and just to save on bandwidth on that. Yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Alan.
Good afternoon. As was already said, I'm Alan Korejbo. I'm the Senior Archaeologist with Respect Heritage Consulting. And I'll be talking to you about the work that we did in the Wakamow Valley in the 2023 and 2024 seasons. But first, I'd like to provide another land acknowledgement as well. We wish to acknowledge that the project is located in Moose Jaw and is within the Treaty 4 territory, which is the original land of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. Furthermore, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm presenting from Saskatchewan, which is located on Treaty 6 territory in the homeland of the Métis people. We acted with respect to the history, language, and culture of these people. We sincerely make this acknowledgement as one step towards reaffirming our relationship with one another while we commit to moving forward in the important journey of reconciliation and collaboration. So just a quick summary. Basically, in the fall 2023, I was commissioned to do this project in Moose Jaw. The initial assessment was completed in that 2023 season in the fall. And we found that basically that the project, the construction project, was going to impact two important sites, ECNJ 7, the Davies site, and ECNJ 6, sorry, I said that wrong, ECNJ 6, the Davies site, and ECNJ 7, the Garrett site. And that further work was required. That further work happened in the season of 2024 with additional assessment as well as archaeological mitigation and monitoring. And as mentioned before, I think the work that we did at these sites will change our understanding of pre-contact cultures in Saskatchewan. I have in there that could, but it absolutely will change what we're thinking about pre-contact cultures. The project also highlights how the collaboration between cultural resource managers like myself, the Heritage Conservation Branch and clients, developers, and when working together, marvelous things can happen, like preserving culture and archaeology. Outline, first I'll talk about where the project is in the within Heritage Conservation Regulatory Framework. I'll provide a background of the project and of the archaeology of the area. We'll talk about what we did, what we found, what remains to be done, and a brief interpretation. First off, let's situate the project within regulatory framework. People often confuse what I do as an archaeologist. A lot of people think that I'm working for the universities or you're working for government, but what we're doing is cultural resource management, and it's basically the industry of providing compliance under heritage legislation for projects that happen in the province. And again, I don't work for the universities, I don't work for the government, I work for the client and the developer. The specific legislation in Saskatchewan that provides heritage resources protection is the Heritage Property Act. It has jurisdiction over private and provincial crown land, but it does not have jurisdiction on federal land or reserve land. The Heritage Conservation Branch is tasked with administrating the Act. They outline the process here. And the first stage is online screening or screening. Then review by the Heritage Conservation Branch, followed by determination, and then finally Heritage Resources Impact Assessment and Heritage Clearance. That's if the project requires more work. At any stage of the process, the requirement can be given clearance, such as an online screening. If that particular property or project isn't heritage sensitive, you'd be given heritage clearance at that time. Now to the background. So the project is located in the southwest periphery of Moose Jaw on Highway 363, 9th Avenue Southwest. It's a slope rehabilitation project that is constructing a tow berm at the bottom of the slope due to slumping issues and the road failure. This is a view to the south. The crest of the valley and the highway is to the right, and you can see where the Garrett site is. The broad area where the Garrett site is, highlighted in yellow. Just to the left of that, where it says Garrett site, is where we're doing our excavations. So the project was screened, and if you can see the red blob at the bottom, I don't know, see if you can see my pointer. Right there's the project. The blue area outline here is where the borrow material for the project was obtained. As you can see, it's in pink. The pink signifies that it's heritage sensitive. The pink and the orange signify heritage sensitivity, and in that case, the project would have been submitted to the Heritage Conservation Branch. Again, the blobs are shown there. The yellow triangles are known archaeological sites. In this case, the project was in conflict with a couple of different sites. Here's another broad overview of what the project entails, or where the project area is. As you can see, the red boundary is where the construction project was, as well as laydown areas and access routes. And what's surrounded in blue is where they obtained the material to build and to construct the berm underneath the road, which was needed to repair the road. As mentioned before, the project impacts two sites, the Davies site and the Garrett site. The green outline shows where the Davies site is, and the purple outline shows where the Garrett site. I think, quite honestly, you can consider that this whole valley floodplain would be one site. So the purple and the green, the different site designations are just arbitrary. This whole area is archaeologically sensitive and contains the site. So this site, these sites have been known for a long time, and there's been different projects and different work that's occurred here already. The sites were first recorded in the 1950s and 60s. There's excavations at these sites in the 1960s by the Saskatchewan Museum of Natural History, which is now the Royal Saskatchewan Museum. Grace Morgan did her Masters of Arts thesis here, as did Kit Crozier. Grace Morgan went on to complete a PhD using some of the information from this site. She also published a book, again, using information from this site. And there were also a number of different articles and theses that used information from this site. So it's a very well-known site. Okay, so the site, what the previous work at the site suggests is that it's a campsite, late period campsite that was used for the last 2,300 years. The site also has a rich post-contact history, including, oh, just give me a second here. The Lakota had inhabited the Moose Jaw area before 1880. It was a group of Lakota from the Sitting Bull. Sitting Bull, as you probably all know, was an inspiring Lakota leader. The area was also a Métis wintering site. There's a couple known cabins called, I'll probably not pronounce this properly, but Hotel Denomi was known as by the early traders, that they'd use this area. So this particular area of the site, or this particular area of Moose Jaw, is what was historically known as the Turn, and it was a very important crossing area. It was an easy place to cross, to ford the river, and a lot of the explorers would have used this area to cross. So the Lakota would have been granted a reserve in 1913, and shortly after that, this specific area was used for a Methodist campsite. They had different cabins and different buildings. What you can see in the background is a bathroom and a washroom. Probably might have had showers or baths, I'm not sure. And it's interesting. It's important to note as well that the people that used this, one of the people was Paul Garrett. Paul Garrett would have informed the museum, Saskatchewan Museum, of the archaeological site here after he found artifacts in his garden, and that's going to be important later on as well. But that he reported it this early, like in the 1950s, 1960s, as a testament that amateur archaeologists are very important to this province. Now, what we did, so the project had three major phases in it. The first one was basically pre-impact assessment, followed by mitigation, which we excavated portions of the site, and construction monitoring. All three of these phases are important. The pre-impact assessment tells us if the project's going to be impacting the site, how important those impacts are going to be, and how important it is to mitigate, or if we need to mitigate. In this case, we were finding a lot of very important archaeological deposits here. So it was important that we mitigate part of the site, which we did. And furthermore, construction monitoring is also important as well, which is more or less the final step in the field to see if there's anything that we missed. During the pre-impact assessment, we dug over 150 shovel tests, which is the main way that we investigate archaeological sites in Saskatchewan. Almost all the shovel tests that we did within the floodplain area were all positive. There was a few that weren't, and that's because of modern disturbances. But again, the whole floodplain in this Moose Jaw Valley or in the Turn area, I think we should be considering all as being heritage sensitive and all being one site. Because it's a floodplain, there's a lot of potential that the archaeological deposits are deeply buried. And in this case was no different. A lot of the tests that we did were between 75 and 110 centimeters deep. Because basically, a lot of the deposits didn't start until about 30 centimeters, and the main deposits were at about 50 centimeters. So if one was to go through that area and dig shallow tests, you'd be missing a lot of the site, quite honestly. So in this case, the deep shovel tests were necessary and required. In this picture, you can see one of my main archaeologists doing her, I believe this is her first shovel test ever. And she somewhat interesting because most of this area is clay, really hard digging. I think this particular shovel test almost made her decide to be an accountant instead of an archaeologist. However, she persevered and she's still with us. The amount of clay that's in this floodplain area as well is important because it gives us a little bit of an insight where the potters would have been getting their clay from. It would have been fairly easy, would have been easily available to find probably good clay, if not right on the floodplain, very close by in the crest of the valley. So, total of 72.25 square meters were excavated during our excavation to varying depths up to about 120 centimeters. Beyond that, deep testing was also conducted up to about 340 centimeters below surface, but that was only in select areas. Here's some of the photos of our crew out there. We had up to 12 excavators excavating this project. It was a fairly major project. And like I say, the digging was fairly hard due to the clay and because of the depth of the site as well. Most of the sites in Saskatchewan are usually found between, I would say, between 20 and 50 centimeters maximum. This site was, like I say, we dug most of the excavation units were down to 120 centimeters. And again, we're doing further testing deeper as well to see if there's any deposits underneath that. Excavation is systematic and scientific. In this case, like some of the deposits were very, very dense, and it's very difficult to be able to excavate all that and maintain the integrity of the material that we have. The goal of our excavations, or any excavation in archaeology, is be able to retrieve and record the artifacts in 3D proveniences. So just the artifacts themselves. The artifacts themselves give you a limited amount of data or information. It's where exactly that artifact is found and its relationship with other artifacts. That's what's of utmost importance. The next stage after mitigation is construction monitoring. And this is basically us watching construction do their thing and to see if there's anything that we missed. If there's anything important at this stage, what usually happens is the work gets redirected to a different area while we mitigate the heritage resource in that particular spot. And then, of course, the idea is to not try to slow down any kind of construction, but to be able to find the resources that we missed. Archaeology is often kind of the needle in the haystack scenario where you can dig a shovel test in one spot and 30 centimeters over, a foot over. You end up not seeing anything while a major fire pit or resources is right by, but you miss it. With construction monitoring offers much better archaeological visibility. And this is where we can see the stuff that we missed during the pre-impact assessment stage. In this case, it was we did find important artifacts, important features that is going to add to the interpretation of the project. As was mentioned, we're actually beyond the 200,000 artifact stage right now, and we're still counting artifacts. We're still cataloging at this stage. We're at approximately 225. I don't expect to get the number to get much more than that. Of importance with this project as well is we collected over 100 3-liter samples of soil. It's a lot of dirt and a lot of artifacts to sort through and catalog. It's not an easy job. It's not a job for one person. Right now there's 6 of us cataloging and going through artifacts and processing stuff. Again, it's not simple. It's everything has to be weighed and measured accurately. Okay, and what did we find? We found a lot of bone, a lot of dense scatters, bone scatters during excavation. All these scatters that, like everything that you see here, would be each profile would be mapped accurately. And again, if you can imagine all these bones and mapping them and drawing them into a map, it was excavated in 5-centimeter levels. So we're looking at 100, a lot of mapping actually occurred in this. A lot of work. It's very, very labor intensive. A lot of labor goes into something like this. A lot of the bone was highly fragmented, and it's culturally fragmented. It's not just from weathering or wearing, but it's culturally fragmented. This indicates that the people that were using this site were refining, not just taking the bones, but they were refining the bones. They were crushing them. They were boiling them. They're doing other things with them. A lot of time would have been involved in doing this thing. So it's not just a simple kill event or a simple butchering event, but they're also processing this stuff. A lot of the bone that we found was also sorted. Like particular elements, bone elements would be found in one part of the site. Another particular type of element of bone would be found in another part of the site. This indicates a systematic processing of animal material. So again, this is not just a few people butchering or processing their material. This is probably a fairly large group of people doing this, and a fairly organized group of people. Overall, the bone was very well preserved. This is probably the best preservation I've ever run into, quite honestly, as an archaeologist. So that adds to the importance of the site, that there's such good preservation. There's a large variety of specimens that were found. I'd have to go through the catalog to tell you exactly what it is, but the majority of the bone there is large bovid, which could either be bison or cow. This site being a pre-contact site that goes into historic or contact period stuff, we end up with a lot of cow bone at the upper levels. There's also a large ungulate, which includes deer. There's a lot of canid as well, which would be coyote or wolf, possibly fox. We do have also a dog burial, but the dog burial, I believe, is most likely historic period, honestly, probably between the 50s and 60s. Probably has something to do with the religious group that was camped here. We also found feline, cat, large bird, fish, small bird. We've got beaver remains, and small mammal and gopher. So there's a lot of variation here. These are just a couple of examples or a few examples of bone tools that we found. Some of them we can identify to what they were, bone spatulas in particular. Others, we just know that they were working the bone They may have been used as awls, and it's right at this time until I do some comparative analysis. I'm not sure what all the bone was used for, but we can tell that they were worked and that they were doing something with them as tools. Also striking is the amount of scapula that we found here, the bison scapula that we found. What you're looking at right here is a top view of a bison scapula cache pit. There's more than just bison scapula here, but I believe there was 10 or 11 scapula in this particular pit. At least a few of them, I haven't taken a really close look at it and recorded it, but at least a few of them have been modified. Again, in some cases it's hard to tell what they were doing with these tools. Just knowing that they were working them into something more than just a piece of bone. This is an example of what I believe to be a digging tool of some sort. This was found in the Oxbow area, just alongside or adjacent to where we were digging. So it's an area that quite honestly, I wasn't expecting to find anything because it's an Oxbow lake. In most of the more recent years, this lake's been totally filled with water. When we were there, it was the lowest, like that's the lowest level it's ever been, and we were able to do some work there. But I think this is a good testament that the people were actually using this oxbow during drier times. It's also good evidence that they're digging stuff with it, like they're either roots or they may have been cultivating something as well. This might have helped with cultivation. Another thing that I think that's really important to this site is that that I think, again, the scapula here, that there's lots of them. It's kind of interesting, and also remember that a lot of the bone here was highly processed. Most of it's highly processed, very fragmented. We can't tell what it is, but the bone that wasn't, a lot of it was scapula, and that bone remained more complete. Only you can tell that they were worked. They're doing things, and a lot of these things start to indicating that they might be scapula hose, and that becomes really important. Different characteristics, as you can see on the screen. The scapular spine is often removed to use for hose. In this case, top left-hand figure, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor here. This shows where the scapular spine was removed by chopping. It was really evident. This isn't poor archaeology. We didn't do this with a shovel. This would have been done during whoever occupied the site. Bottom left-hand corner, you see a large bifurcated scapula as well. That's a characteristic of bison scapula hose. Just over from that, we have another bison scapula. It's got striations on it. They're very evident. I had to take a really good look at this to see if that wasn't something that we did during the field, but this is very. You can see even the striations in the photo. You don't even have to magnify it. It's very obvious. This scapular spine has also been removed, most likely from a different way of removal, and this is more common where they use striations at the base of the spine, and then they'd snap it off. Let's see here. Also, there's another top right-hand corner. And this one's fairly complete. You can see where it's starting to look like a paddle or like a hoe shape. That's important. The rounded edges at the outside edge, as well as another very popular characteristic is having a hole mid-scapula. This one's hard to see. We can't, because it's been broken, but this is what I believe to be a hole. On the face of the scapula, you can see where it's been worn and possibly polished in other areas as well. Another characteristic, bottom right-hand corner, is shaping of the scapula. Basically, on the outside of the scapula, you have them shaping the scapula on the parallel edges, as well as a scapular spine modification. The neck or the joint in this case for the scapula here has been removed, most likely by chopping. This one's not really evident, but I have other samples where it's absolutely obvious that it's been removed by. You can see the flaking, you can see the chopping on the artifact. Okay, I'm unable to move my screen for some reason. Let's try this a different way. Oh, there we go. It just must be a big delay. There's a lot of photos on there, so I'm guessing that it slows the system down. Other evidence we have here is stone hoe. I do need to do a little bit of comparative analysis on this to make sure that that's what it is. It certainly looks like it. And again, if this is a stone hoe, that suggests that the area's been cultivated. Finding hoes in Saskatchewan, be it scapular hoes or stone, is very rare. And again, it's shows how unique and important this site is. We've also got what I believe to be a mortar or a pestle. This would have been evidence that most likely plant material, possibly seeds, were being refined further, crushed down for a meal. The pottery here. So this is one of the first things that triggered the importance of the site. We found some of this pottery right during the 2023 initial pre-impact assessment work. And it's unique. You don't see this type of pottery very often. There are other sites in Saskatchewan that might be Middle Missouri. And I do have to do a little bit more comparative analysis on this as well to make sure that this is what it is. But I do believe this to be Middle Missouri. Alternatively, this pottery could be influenced by cultures from southwestern Manitoba. But in either case, it's important that both of these areas, Middle Missouri as well as southwestern Manitoba, are known to be horticultural, have horticultural societies in them. And just as the bone was very well preserved, the pottery here was very well preserved as well. And that includes the carbon residue on the inside of the pottery. Basically, it's like when you cook something and you burn something on the inside. That's what was occurring here, is that they were burning plant material, most likely another type of material. That carbon residue can be scraped off, and under analysis, you can tell what was being cooked in these pots. So we get to see what was on the diet for ancient people. We've got a number of projectile points here as well. Projectile points in most cases are diagnostic. These, and I'll call these arrowheads because these are fairly small, and they wouldn't have been used as a spear or an atlatl. So these will be arrow points. These can give us a rough idea of when the site was being used or our specific site area. Because again, it's a really big site, and I think it was used at different periods, of course. In this case, we know that the sites, and I agree with this, the pottery is most likely dated about the same age group. We're looking at as old as about 1,200 years old. Something else striking at this site that I wasn't quite ready for is the amount of seeds that we recovered during excavation. And this is, so I have over 100 soil samples that we'll be doing a macrobotanical analysis on. But we haven't even gotten to the macrobotanical analysis, and I probably have more than 30. I have about 30 to 40 seeds that we found out of this during this excavation. Complicating matters here, though, of course, is that Paul Garrett found a lot of the archaeological remains in the 50s in his garden. So I'll have to be able to analyze this stuff and take a really good look at exactly, again, this is where the 3D provenience becomes really important. Were these seeds found in context, or were they like during more modern or historic disturbances, or is it below the disturbance into the pre-contact levels? It's going to be very important for me to take a close look at that. A lot of the identifiable seeds are squash seeds, and that is one of the plants that would have been cultivated during pre-contact times. There are for sure there's a handful of these seeds were discovered below modern disturbance, but again, I have to sort through everything to see more precisely what's happening there. And of course, as noted before, this area has been very important during, like throughout pre-contact as well as post-contact period. And this is just a few of the artifacts that I've got. One of them is a 1917 coin, Canadian coin. And that's interesting because it was about 1913 when the Lakota group were granted their reserve at Wood Mountain, and a lot of them would have left this area. So this is when most likely the religious group would have come in here to set up their campsite. We also find a lot of pottery from the 1960s. And of interest as well is the nail that I have in the top right-hand corner. Comparative analysis from what I've looked at, I believe that that's from the mid 1800s, and if it is, that might suggest that that particular artifact may have been left by the early Métis that would have been using this area as a Hivernant area, winter camping area. We've got bone uprights in this site. We've got 3 or 4 of them. It's possible that they were using these bone uprights for hide stretching, or possibly for tarp. But they're somewhat interesting. That's not something you find every day. We've got a lot of burn features here. Burn features are important because it's kind of a common practice for people to discard what they're eating into the fire, and of course cooking remains you'd find in there as well. The carbonization of the burning process also preserves things a little bit better than anything else as well. So that the stuff that we can find in there is burnt is important. These burn features we've taken samples of, and they will be analyzed in further detail. And I'm sure that I'm really looking forward to getting some of the results back on this stuff. But again, it's a big project, and we're still waiting for this stuff. As I mentioned before, we were finding during the monitoring process, they would have monitored the Oxbow Lake area. And I didn't expect to find much in there because for all intents and purposes, I believe that would have been full of water. But in this case, we found a couple of stone features. Cairns, possible that one of them might have been some type of a burning pit as well with rocks thrown in. It's kind of hard to tell. There was some burnt material beside it, faunal material beside it, but it kind of opens up our eyes that these areas that we believe that weren't being used, in this case it was being used, most likely during drier periods. Some of the ideas, like again, if we're pointing the way to, if we're suggesting that this might have been a horticultural area, something like that, like this, like the Oxbow would have maintained a lot of moisture. Even when we were there, we can, like, as the heavy equipment was traveling over this area, you could tell it was wet. and so it might have been a really good area to actually plant and grow things. Um, but it was, again, um, the needle in the haystack scenario. We did go through this with a pre-impact assessment. Totally missed these features. It wasn't until the monitoring stage that we found these, and these could be very important. Again, just to kind of show you where those stone features are. The two X's, the red X's, show you where they would have been. And it's important to note, like when I went there to do the initial assessment, this was dry-ish. It was muddy, but it was dry. A couple of the locals that were walking by had mentioned to me this, like that's the first time that they've seen this area dry in probably about a decade. So it's just interesting that we're finding stuff there, and it's just shows that these areas were being used. So another important aspect of the project was so on in the valley area, you see that where the red outline is, that's where the project would have been. That's where the construction project was situated. Across the highway, on the west side of the highway, is where they had to get the boro material. This area was initially flagged off as being heritage sensitive because of multiple human burials. The forms that were written up regarding this site were very roughly drawn, and especially after the assessment that we did, we didn't find any evidence of human remains or of the site that was recorded. And the site, I believe, was recorded in the 1960s. So we didn't find that, but it is interesting to note. This is a cultivated field. We did find 4 new sites based on lithic scatters. They're of low interpretive value because they were disturbed, but I think in a lot of cases in Saskatchewan, areas like this are written off and they don't actually get assessed. In this case, we had to assess it because we were there looking for human remains. These areas, cultivated areas, are important, I think. And in this case, like I say, we found 4 new sites. So what's left to do? Again, this is a very large project. We've got 6 people working on cataloging and analyzing materials. We'll probably be done like the cataloging portion of it probably today or tomorrow. But we still need to get radiocarbon dating back from the artifacts. The pottery residue analysis has to be completed. That's been sent in. Soil analysis has to be completed. That's where we'd be doing micro and macro botanical analysis. So we'd be looking for seeds, actual large pieces of wood, materials, but also looking at phytoliths and pollens, which would kind of be a dead ringer to be able to find out what was being grown at that particular time. We have 4 reports to write, and then of course final submission of the artifacts to the Royal Saskatchewan Museum. So the work that we did here is no doubt significant. The project itself shows, again, it's a great example of what happens when developers, regulatory agencies, and cultural resource managers like myself, when we work together, we can preserve and protect some of the heritage resources we have in this province. The Garrett site, again, what we've done confirms that it's an older site. It's a late pre-contact site, spans the last 2,300 years. It's a site that's been intensively used as well. I think some of the things that we found during the project are especially important because it makes the site a little bit unique. As of now, there are no for sure horticultural sites in Saskatchewan. It hasn't been defined here. This site, I think very much so points towards that this might be horticultural in nature and that people were actually changing their lifestyles from being mobile hunter-gatherers to settling down a little bit more and becoming more horticultural. Not saying that the bison wasn't important. The remains that we found at the site are definitely, a lot of the stuff that we found was bison remains. So they're still eating bison, but they're starting to supplement what they're eating and what they're doing by farming or by planting seeds and cultivating seeds. This isn't a definite, interpretation on this. I still have a lot of, like I say, a lot of evidence to go through, a lot of work to do before I can make this statement. But I really do believe, the pottery types that we have is from an area that was known to be horticultural in nature. The intensive multiple occupation of the site as well is important. This is a place where they didn't just camp for 1 or 2 nights. These people stayed here for a long time. They invested a lot of time and effort in the site, and they did a lot of things here. So again, they're spending some time here. If they're spending time here, that also suggests that they'd be able to do horticultural activities as well. That's a characteristic for horticulture. You need to be around your fields and around your plants so you can tend to them. The characteristics of some of the scapula tools, we've got a lot of scapula fragments that have some 1 or 2 characteristics of it being a hoe. One of the areas that we excavated looked to me to be a large refuse pile. And this is where we're finding this stuff. And it makes sense. The scapulas, the ground is hard. The scapulas would have been a fairly disposable tool. What do you do with those tools afterwards? And in this case, I think they're basically throwing them in a pile and burnt in some cases. But the evidence that we're finding is very fragmentary, but I think it's all there. The stone hoe, again, I think that's very important. And the amount of seeds that we have there suggests that they were likely part of the diet. Again, I've got to do a lot of work trying to figure out exactly where those seeds came from. The squash seeds in the assemblage, squash would have been a domesticated plant that pre-contact societies would have used. And again, currently, this site, I believe, is probably the strongest evidence of horticulture or domestication or planting, I should say, not domestication, but planting in Saskatchewan right now. And that's the end of my presentation. I'd like to acknowledge that highways and infrastructure had a big piece of this. They were important because they provided the funds for this. Clifton Engineering and Finn Construction.
Great, thank you so much, Alan. That was so much to learn from that site. The findings and the different examples of all the material found at the site. So interesting to hear about such a large and significant project. There's certainly, as you said, more to discover about it and to learn from it. And also, as you mentioned, it really is a project that demonstrates the importance of cultural resource management. We do have about 10 minutes for questions for Alan. And we also have Brent here, one of our archaeologists. And so if you guys have questions, you can raise your hand and I'll call you that way, or you can pop something in the chat, or you can also always send me your questions and I can pass them along to Alan. And I think he shared his contact there too. So anyone has any questions?
Hand up or whatever.
Hey, Alan. Oh, go ahead, and then I'll read the one in the chat, but go ahead. Carmen, go ahead. No, go ahead and ask.
Actually, it's Gary sitting with Carmen. Not really a question. I just want to say, Alan, like, fantastic work, man. So impressed. Wish I got to spend some time there with you. That would have been cool. And thanks for sharing everything.
Oh, Alan, you're muted. Sorry.
No, sorry. Thanks. It was great presenting and sharing what I've found out there, for sure.
We have a question in the chat. Was there any cultural material in the deep tests?
No, for the most part, anything anything below about 85 or 90 centimeters was introduced there by rodent digging or some kind of disturbance. The deposits probably only went to about 85 centimeters. None of the deep tests were positive for cultural, like the deep tests, like 330 and that, were positive for cultural material. And that's about the limit of my testing could go. But yeah, no, I didn't find anything in the deep tests.
Oh, and I see another one here. In general, how do archaeologists determine where to start looking for artifacts?
Oh, this is an interesting question for sure. So the environment that we're in has changed a lot in the last 10,000 years. So that makes things very challenging. The later sites like this, you can almost, as you're walking through this is right along the Trans-Canada Trail. It's along a beautiful, beautiful river. It's very sheltered. I was there while I was working there, like in this area, especially on the crest of the valley. It's super, super, super windy. This valley itself, this spot, provides tons of shelter. It's beautiful. It's a great place to grow things. So when you're basically, as an archaeologist, you just look at the environment and say, this would be a nice place to set up camp, and this is shows what they've done for a long time.
Right.
Oh.
Just give another moment for questions if anybody has any. Oh, Dom, I think Dom has his hand up here. Go ahead, Dom.
Thanks for the presentation. It was certainly a lot of work going on there. It's amazing to see how big a project it is. You mentioned, you talked about the Oxbow a lot, and we all know that rivers kind of move and meander through time. So is it possible that, would you be looking at the change of the river course at that time to see where, maybe what was the Oxbow now was not an Oxbow at the time, thousands of years ago?
Yeah, very good question. And so I did a lot of thinking about that too, and just the river morphology. I think this was always an Oxbow during the occupations that we investigated. It may, if you going back, say, 2,000 years, it might have been part of the river course, but I don't think that this was part of the river course back to, I believe this, where we're digging right now, we're probably looking between 1200 and, 1200 to current. I don't think that this was an Oxbow. I do think that the Oxbow is important because, again, the planting environment. If they're planting stuff, again, that Oxbow would have provided a very good moist area for things to grow.
Thanks.
We have another question in the chat. How far, I believe it means away, would the cultural associations of the material you found extend? You mentioned the Missouri.
Yeah, so we do have exotic material. We have Knife River flint, which is from North and South Dakota. There's also some of the stuff that they found during previous work. I believe it's called, there's an exotic wood that was found here as well. It's called basswood. It's either from, again, it's from the Dakotas area and or eastern Manitoba. And the pottery as well. That's I would say, from what I've seen so far, the Dakotas, southeastern Manitoba is probably the extent of what I saw. But I have to go through the assemblage to see if there's more exotic material that extend further out.
Great.
Hope that answered the question.
We have a couple minutes left if anybody has any other questions. All right. Well, again, if you think of something after the presentation, if you have Alan's contact, you can reach out to him or contact me and I will pass those on to Alan as well. So I think we'll just conclude things. So that brings us to the end of our webinar today. again, thank you so much to Alan. Really appreciate you being here to tell us about this great project, and that was a wonderful presentation, very detailed. As somebody, I'm not one of the archaeologists in our team, so it was really, you could really get a sense of the project and all of the steps needed. So super big thank you to you. And thanks everyone who attended today. And some of you will be back tomorrow as we learn about the John Nugent Studio and the prominent Canadian sculptor John Nugent, as well as the Saskatchewan architect Clifford Weens, who designed the one-of-a-kind Nugent Studio that is a designated provincial heritage property. And so there are late registrations available, so you could just reach out to me and I could send that to you. I'll just pop that in the chat. And yeah, so thank you again to everybody. Thanks to Alan, and everybody have a great day. Oh, I didn't hit enter on that contact. There we go.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.